covered. We face east towards Jerusalem.
Our Father, most holy and true, come that Elohim, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. We give thanks and all praise unto you, Father Yahweh, because you are righteous, Father Yahweh. You are our total headship, Father Yahweh. We thank you, Yeshua, by name, for allowing us to be your child, Father Yahweh, for calling us, Father Yahweh, to hear your word, Father Yahweh, to try and teach your word, Father Yahweh. We pray, Father Yeshua, by name, for that your word goes out to the four corners of the earth, Father Yahweh, touching those, Father, that you wish to touch, Father Yahweh. Because we know your word has to be prophesied, Father. We know your word, Father Yahweh, has to be published, Father Yahweh. And we ask Yeshua, by name, to allow us, Father Yahweh, to teach your word correctly, Father Yahweh, how you say, Father Yahweh. Because we know this is your ministry, Father Yahweh. We thank you, Father Yeshua, by name, Father. Heavenly Father, we ask to touch our hearts, Father Yahweh, that we be filled, Father, with your word, Father, and understand how to do your word, Father Yahweh, not just hear your word, Father. Touch our hearts, Father, and change it, Father Yahweh. Because we know, Father Yahweh, that we are hard-headed most of the time, Father Yahweh. It's stiff-necked, Father. And we ask, Father, to have mighty mercy upon us, Father Yahweh, in Yeshua's my name. Because we need you 24/7, Father Yahweh. We be thanks in prayer, in Yeshua's holy my name. We pray to strengthen us, Father Yahweh. You know, Father Yahweh, things are coming harder and harder at us, Father Yahweh, in this day. So we rely on you, Father, to allow us to come into your heads, Father Yahweh, to protect us, Father Yahweh, from the evils of the day, Father Yahweh. We give you thanks and praise in Yeshua's holy and mighty name. Amen. Amen.
Shalom, Mama.
Shabbat shalom, man. All right, Shabbat shalom. My name is Yadon Yashua, my brother Yonatan Yashua. Shabbat shalom. And the title of today's Shabbat study is The Lost Shepherds. The Lost Shepherds. And in this walk, we understand that we are to continue the ministry of the Mashiach and finding the lost sheep of Yasharal. But we have to understand as a people, that puts us in the responsibility of being shepherds as well, is to gather the sheep to the fold, to bring back those that have lost their identity back into their nationality. And how is that going to be done if the shepherds themselves are lost? Of those that are given the talent, the ability, and the spirit to reach the masses are lost themselves. Because it says if they're both blind, they're going to both fall in the ditch. So we're going to focus a little bit on the shepherds and understanding our responsibility as being chosen to be shepherds of a nation, and eventually shepherds to the rest of the nations. So we're going to open up first in Psalms, Tehillim, chapter 23. Tehillim, Psalms, chapter 23, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Yahweh is my shepherd, I shall not want.
All right, so Yahweh is my shepherd. This is a psalm of David. So let's look at the Hebrew word for shepherd. The Hebrew word for shepherd is ra'ah, which is spelled R-A-A-H, and it's different from Ra. We know Ra means evil in Hebrew, but Ra'ah is shepherd, and the Strong's word for that is H7462. H7462, and it's a primitive root to tend a flock, that is, pasture it, intransitively to graze, literally or figuratively, generally to rule, by extension to associate with as a friend, break companion, keep company with, devour, eat up, evil entreat, feed, use as a friend, make friendship with, herdman, keep, sheep, pastor, shearing house, shepherd, wander, waste. So there's a broad spectrum, but some of the important points to highlight is not only to tend to a flock or to lead, but it also is to associate with as a friend, to make friends with, to make a companion. So he's saying Yahweh is his shepherd. Yahweh is like made himself a friend to him, as well as has been a companion and has tended to him. Go ahead.
He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Yahweh forever.
All right, let's go to Yohanan. Let's go to John chapter 28. And we're going to read verses 28 through 56.
What chapter in John?
Oh, wait a minute. No, that's the wrong chapter. Hold on. Skip that. Go to Genesis chapter 4. We're going to come back to that. Bereshit chapter 4. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 4. And we're going to start that at verse 1.
And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahweh, and Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof.
So what was the difference in the offering?
One brought firstlings and the other...
Yeah.
Right. One brought the best that he could, the firstlings and the fatness thereof. One offering had blood in it, had life in it. And then the other offering was a produce offering, and it was just some of it. It didn't stipulate that it was his Bikurim, his first fruits, or anything. It just said he offered something. So there's a difference in intent. Now, the best of the firstlings and the fatness thereof may have been horrible. It might not have been a perfect animal that was, from a good bloodline, but if that's the best he had, that's what he offered. Whereas Cain, he may have had the firstlings, the first fruit of his offering, which is the best that he has, and he didn't necessarily give that. Go ahead.
And of his flock and the fat thereof, and Yahweh had respect unto Abel and his offering. Verse 5. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Why are you wroth, and why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not well, sin lies at the door, and unto you shall be his desire, and you shall rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Where is Abel your brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries unto me from the ground. Now are you cursed from the earth, which has opened her mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand.
All right, so several things there. Yahweh told him that if you do good, will you not be accepted? But if you do evil, sin lies at the door and you will rule over him. So you see, immediately after that, out of anger, he didn't do well in his offering. Out of anger, he murdered his brother. And then on top of that, when he was approached about it, he had an attitude. So sin is just piling up on him with Yahweh. And then when he's asked, he's at, well, my brother's keeper? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. That's your responsibility. Maybe if you were tending to some animals, maybe you would understand the responsibility that you have towards one another. So it keeps piling up and piling up. And then immediately after that is going to come the punishment. Go ahead.
Verse 12. When you till the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto you her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shall you be in the earth.
And that's what he did from the beginning, from the initial start. He was the one that tilled the ground. But because he didn't do his job right, which was not to just till the ground, but to till the ground and offer your best offering unto Yah, now the ground is cursed for his sake. And now he's lost a home where he's a fugitive and a vagabond throughout the entire earth. So all this goes in process because you knew to do good, but you didn't. How did Abel know to give the firstlings of his flocks? He had a father. He had somebody that instructed him the same way his father was instructed from Yahweh. So he didn't follow what he was supposed to be doing. And there it is. Sin lied at the door, and unto him he ruled. So he continued doing more and more and more till he's being put out of his home. Go ahead.
And Cain said unto Yahweh, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from your face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that finds me shall slay me. And Yahweh said unto him, Therefore, whosoever slays Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Yahweh set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of Yahweh and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he builded a city and called the name of this city after the name of his son, Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehu Yahel, and Mehu Yael begat Methusael, and Methusael begat Lamech. And Lamech took unto him two wives. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Adah bare Jabal, and he was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all as such handle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For Elohim said she has appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth, to him also there were born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of Yahweh.
All right. So when we saw earlier, which we didn't read today, but when that tree of knowledge of good and evil was taken, there was a curse placed on the man and the woman at that point. And there was going to be the seed of the adversary, the devil, and the seed of Eve, of Hawa, were going to be at odds at each other. Now, we know that the snake don't have seed that can pertain anything to a man. And we know the woman doesn't have seed. The woman has seed placed in her. So we understand that there's a spiritual seed. There's two spiritual seeds with two different spiritual fathers. So now we're going to John. We're actually going to John chapter 8. Yohanan chapter 8. You have different spiritual seeds. You got one seed that's going to do the work of its father, and you have another spiritual seed that's going to do the work of its father. Yohanan chapter 8, and we're going to start this at verse 28.
Then said Yeshua unto them, When you have lifted up the Son of Man, then shall you know that I am he, and that I do nothing of myself, but as my Father has taught me, I speak these things. And he that sent me is with me. The Father has not left me alone, for I do always those things that please him.
All right, so when you are a son of Elohim, this is what you do. You do what your father teaches you, and you do the things that please your father. When you decide you're going to do what you want to do, and you're going to do the things that please yourself versus the things that please your father, then you're like the adversary of the devil. That spirit was born of not of Yahweh, because Yahweh is the father of all spirits. But this spirit that decide I'm going to do transgression, I'm going to lead other people away from doing things versus I'm going to lead the lost sheep back to the pasture. No, I'm going to cause sheep to be scattered. I'm going to cause people to be lost. So that takes away your spirit father, which is supposed to be Yahweh. And now you're making your spiritual father the adversary of the devil, because you're doing the things that please him, the adversary of the devil, versus doing the things that please Yah, the Most High. Go ahead.
Verse 31. Then
30.
said, and he spoke these words, many believed on him. Then said Yeshua to those Yehudim which believed on him, If you continue in my word, then are you my disciples indeed.
Okay, if you continue in my word, then you are disciples. So we can't call ourselves Talmudim or disciples unless we continue in his word. And to continue in his word, if you look at that word disciples, you have to have discipline. You have to follow the same discipline that the Mashiach followed. In other words, he did the things that pleased his father. Go ahead.
Verse 32. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. They answered him, We be Abraham's seed, and were never in bondage to any man. How say you, you shall be made free?
Okay, so you are Abraham's seed. That means that you're an Eberite. You're Hebrew. But you've never been bondage to any man. So maybe you're not from the 12 tribes of Yasharah. Because if your people have never been in bondage, your father can still be Abraham. He said Abraham was a father of many nations. Go ahead.
Verse 34. Yeshua answered them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever commits sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abides not in the house forever, but the Son abides forever. If the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. I know that you are Abraham's seed, but you seek to kill me because my word has no place in you. I speak that which I have seen with my father, and you do that which you have seen with your father. They answered and said unto him, Abraham is our father. Yeshua said unto them, If you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham.
All right, so he's constantly showing there's two different bloodlines, two different seeds, spiritual bloodlines going on here. Because listen, if Abraham was your father, then you would do the things that Abraham did. But instead, you're doing the things that you see with your father. You see your father, your spiritual father, transgress the law, exalt themselves, oppress people. These are the things that they're seeing from their father. Go ahead.
But now you seek to kill me, A man that has told you the truth which I have heard of Elohim, this did not Abraham. You do the deeds of your father. Then said they to him, we be not born of fornication. We have one father, even Yahweh. Yeshua said unto them, if Yahweh were your father, you would love me. For I proceed forth and came from Elohim. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me.
All right, so if Yahweh were your father, then you would love me. Because the spirit of the adversary, the devil, is just like the spirit of Esau, hates his brother. So if Yahweh was your father, then that would make me your brother. You would love me. But instead you hate me. That shows you that we don't have the same father. Go ahead.
Why do you not understand my speech? Even because you cannot hear my word. You are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it.
Okay, he speaks a lie, and he speaks of his own. He's a liar. He's the father of lies, and there is no truth in him. If there's no truth in him, that means there's no Holy Spirit. There's no life. There's no light in him, the true light. But that doesn't mean he can't be bright. That doesn't mean he can't emanate light. There's different types of light. So this is why it says, don't be fooled at some of these pastors, because even if the adversary himself can emanate light and be luminous, yet there is no light in him. There's no truth in him. So you can't be fooled by the outer appearance of light. It's that inner light, the true light that lighted up the man, that true light that's spoken of in John chapter 1, that true light that's spoken of in Genesis chapter 1 when there was darkness and confusion, and that light came. That's the light you're looking for. That light comes from the Father. An outward appearance worldly light, that's from the adversary, the devil, and it looks very similar if you're not looking at the results of something. Go ahead, Elder.
I just want to say something quick on that. These guys really didn't understand what he was talking about. He was speaking spiritual to them. They didn't understand that they really didn't come from Abraham, because they didn't show the spiritual seed from Abraham. They was offended because they ancestry stemmed from Abraham.
Right.
But the spiritual seed did not come, didn't give itself unto you, because you didn't come from that spiritual seed, because you couldn't understand the spirit of what Yahshua was talking about. That's why we got upset with him most of the time when he was speaking in parables, because he said, my people know my voice, my sheep know my voice. He also stated right here that in John chapter 6, no man can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him.
Right.
And I will raise him up in the last day. This is what he was saying these things. They didn't understand what they were talking about, couldn't understand the spiritual message that Yeshua was given from his Father. If you were from his Father, you would love the Messiah. You would love the Christ, the Mashiach, because you would understand the heart of Yah, the love of Yah, the draw of Yah. This just goes to show what my brother was talking about. They are the seed of Cain, the man, the adversary, the devil. And that's why Yah had allowed Adam and Eve to have Seth to bring that spiritual seed back into the land after Cain killed it. Because Cain, and she said, I'll give a man. Well, that man was of sin. Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't of sin, he would have listened to your brother when he talked to you to correct you. You wouldn't just raise your hand and kill your brother.
All right. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 45. And because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. Which of you convinced me of sin? And if I say the truth, why do you not believe me? He that is of Yahweh hears Yahweh's words. You therefore hear them not, because you are not of Yahweh.
So he that's of Yahweh hears Yahweh's words. So this is part of the reason why, to go along with the elder said, why they hated Yahshua. And Yahshua is just the example. He's just the prototype. So when you see we speak the word to somebody, they not really hating us as a people. They hate the word. When they hate the word, it's because they hear not the words, because they're not of Yahweh at that time. At that time, when they are hating this word, they're of the adversary of the devil. There's a different spirit. They're doing the works of their father at the time. And that'll cause them to hate their brother at that specific time. So it was the same thing with Yahshua. They didn't necessarily hate Yahshua himself, but when he came speaking the words, he was the vessel that carried that word, so they hated him. But if they loved the word, when Yahshua came, they would have automatically loved Yahshua, because they were like, wait a minute, man, this sounds like the word. I like you. Verse 48.
Then answered the Yehudim and said unto him, say we not well that you are a Samaritan and have a devil? Yahshua answered, I have not a devil, but I honor my Father, and you do dishonor me. And I seek not my own glory. There is one that seeks and judges. Verily, verily, I say unto you, if a man keep my saying, he shall never see death. Then said the Yehudim unto him, now we know that you have a devil. Abraham is dead and the prophets, and you say, if a man keep my saying, he shall never taste of death. Are you greater than our father Abraham, which is dead, and the prophets are dead, who make you yourself? Yahshua answered, if I honor myself, my honor is nothing. It is my Father that honors me, of whom you say that he is your Elohim.
Now, look at this. It says, are you greater than our father Abraham? So they claimed Abraham as their father. But then they said, and the prophets are dead? They didn't say, and our brethren, the prophets? They didn't say that. So they didn't claim the prophets to be their brothers. So that kind of makes you think there. Go ahead.
Yet you have not known him, but I know him. And if I should say I know him not, I shall be a liar like unto you, but I know him and keep his saying. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Then said the Yehudim unto him, you are not yet 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham? Yahshua said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. Then they took up stones to cast at him, but Yahshua hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by.
All right, let's go back. Let's go to Bereshit chapter 46. Genesis chapter 46. Genesis chapter 46, and we're going to read just verses 26 through 34.
All the souls that came with Jacob to Mitzrayim, which came out of his loins, besides Jacob's sons, wives, all the souls were 66.
46, Genesis chapter 46 and verse 26.
And the sons of Joseph, which were born him in Mitzrayim, were 2 souls. All the souls of the house of Jacob, which came into Egypt, were 70. And he sent Yehudah before him unto Joseph, to direct his face unto Goshen, and they came into the land of Goshen. And when Joseph made ready his chariot, and went up to meet Yasharal his father to Goshen, and presented himself to him, and he fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. And Yasharal said unto Joseph, now let me die, since I have seen your face, because you are yet alive. And Joseph said unto his brethren, and unto his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and say unto him, my brethren in my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade has been to feed cattle, and they have brought their flocks and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you, and shall say, what is your occupation? That you shall say, your servants trade and have been about cattle from our youth, even until now, both we and also our fathers, that we may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination unto the Mitzrites.
All right, so there's a lot going on in there. So first of all, he's directing them to the land of Goshen. If you look at a map, Goshen is going to be on the eastern side of Mizraim, on the other side of the Nile. So this is all part of Abraham's inheritance from the Nile River to the Euphrates. So he's being directed to stay in their own land that belongs to them in their inheritance. So in order to get them there, there's a specific trade that is being prescribed to them as being shepherds. And notice, my father and my brethren, this is what they have been doing. So in doing what they're supposed to be doing, to be shepherds, they would be where they're supposed to be, in their land, in Goshen. And all of this is going to come into play later on as they stay in there, when you're going to have the whole side of Goshen with light and the other side of Mizraim in complete darkness. But Yosef is being instructed here to keep the children of Yasharal separate from Mizraim and separate from the Mizrites, and also to keep them in their land. And he's using their work, their ability to be shepherds, to tend to a flock, to care for something more than just yourself, than to just water something you ain't got to worry about, it ain't going nowhere. But to actually look after, to tend to make friends with. You ain't got to make friend with no plant. As long as you put some water in it and put it by some light, you good to go. But an animal, you can't treat an animal like that. You got to tend to its needs. You got to see what's going on with it. You got to feed it. When it's sick, you got to help it.
Sometimes you got to help them with birth.
Exactly. So you got a lot going on here, and the children are being raised in a specific trade. And it says you will do what your father's doing. This is what our fathers and our brethren have been doing, tending to flocks. Let's go to Bamidbar chapter 27, Numbers chapter 27. So in just doing what you're supposed to be doing, this could be part of making sure you end up where you're supposed to be ending up. Look at Cain from the beginning. He didn't do what he was supposed to be doing, and it forced him out of where he was supposed to be. He's supposed to be in Eden. He's supposed to be with his brothers. Now, they were outside of the garden, but they were still in Eden. Go ahead.
Bamidbar, Numbers chapter 27 and verse 1. Then came the daughters of Zelophehad, the son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the son of Yosef. And these are the names of his daughter: Mahlah, Noah, and Hogah, and Milcah, and Tirzah. And they stood before Moshe and before Eleazar the priest and before the princes and all the congregation by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, Our father died in the wilderness, and he was not in the company of them that gather themselves together against Yahweh in the company of Korah, but died in his own sin and had no sons. Why should the name of our father be done away from among his family, because he has no son? Give unto us therefore a possession among the brethren of our father. And Moshe brought their cause before Yahweh. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, The daughters of Zelophehad speak right. You shall surely give them a possession of an inheritance among their father's brethren, and you shall cause the inheritance of their father to pass unto them. And you shall speak unto the children of Yasharal, saying, If a man die and have no son, then you shall cause his inheritance to pass unto his daughter. And if he have no daughter, then you shall give his inheritance unto his brethren. And if you have no brethren, then you shall give his inheritance unto his father's brethren. And if his father have no brethren, then you shall give his inheritance unto his kinsman that is next to him of his family, and he shall possess it. And it shall be unto the children of Yasharal a statute of judgment, as Yahweh commanded Moshe.
Okay, so if you had a daughter, and the daughter passes, the father or brother or whatever passes away, and there's no male to carry the inheritance, then it goes to the daughter. The daughter keeps it, but how is that going to be pertinent if she turns around and she marries somebody of another tribe? Then now you got land going to other tribes. So this is why that law was in place, why you had to marry within your own tribe, is to keep the land there. It wasn't to be like, well, it's just an abomination because you marrying somebody else that's different than you. No, it was to keep the land in its place. And you can see that precept in here because it's saying, hey, the kinsman, the family member, the brother, whatever on the father's side, that's going to keep the bloodline intact. Didn't say the mother's side, the father's side, to keep this intact into the land. So this is the precept for that law of why you weren't supposed to marry. Now, if you are a man and you marry somebody outside of those 7 nations that he told us don't make any covenants with, you could lawfully do that because your land still stayed there. But if you married those people of those 7 nations, that was 100% off limits. Now, this is not saying that you are supposed to be intermarrying and doing all those type of things, but you have to keep the law in perspective and look at why things were made in its place. Because there were laws that when we went to war with other people of other lands, if we saw that woman we wanted to take and that husband was dead, then it was laws pertaining to how to take that woman as a concubine. How you had to shave her head and you had to allow her nails to grow back. So there's all kind of laws. So what is there, contradiction in the law? No, you have to read it as how it's written. If you go into Ezra, when it talks about putting away those priests, first of all, you're talking about Levites. The Levite not even supposed to marry a woman that was put away or a woman that had any kind of whorish tendencies. There was different types of specifications for a son of Levi. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, get you up into this Mount Ibrahim, and see the land which I have given unto the children of Yasharal. And when you have seen it, you also shall be gathered unto your people as Aaron, your brother, was gathered.
And if you look at that word Mount Abarim, that will be like the plural for Hebrews. Eberites, Abarim. Eber would have been Abar. Go ahead.
For you rebelled against my commandment in the desert of Zin, in the strife of the congregation, to sanctify me at the water before their eyes. That is the water of Meribah in Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin. And Moshe spoke unto Yahweh, saying, let Yahweh, the Elohim of all of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation, which may go out before them, and which may go in before them, and which may lead them out, and which may bring them in, that the congregation of Yasharal, of the congregation of Yahweh, be not as sheep which have no shepherd.
All right. So Yahweh said, set a man over a congregation, which may go out before them, and may go in before them, and may lead them out, and which may bring them in, that the congregation of Yahweh be not as sheep which have no shepherd. So he's saying set a shepherd, somebody who's going to tend to the flock. And he's saying set a man. So the woman wasn't chosen for this position to lead in the congregation and lead out, to tend to them, to sit before them. She has her own responsibility. This man has to be able to do this at all times. A woman during certain parts of her cycle, during certain parts of the month, she under her cycle. So she's unclean, she's not in a position. Whereas the man can say, well, I need to just keep myself away from certain things in order to keep myself clean to do this job that I need to do. Now, does that mean anywhere in here that a woman can't teach her children or speak the word or read the word? No, I don't see that in it. I don't know where they get that from. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, take you Yeshua, the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay your hand upon him, and set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight, and you shall put some of your honor upon him, that all the congregation of the children of Yasharal may be obedient. And he shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall ask counsel for him after the judgment of Urim before Yahweh. At his word shall they go out, and at his words they shall come in, both he and all the children of Yasharal with him, even all the congregation. And Moshe did as Yahweh commanded him, and he took Yeshua and set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation. And he laid his hands upon him and gave him a charge as Yahweh commanded by the hand of Moshe.
All right, so a charge was given unto him. He set a man, according to Yahweh, to be the shepherd of the children of Yasharal. Now, in understanding that how this law is being given in Numbers, we understand that Yah is saying purposely he is setting the order. Set a man. Now, when the temple was being set up, there wouldn't be any issue with that, of having the woman being in the position she wasn't supposed to be in, because everything was separated out. The priests were a certain place. The Nazarites were a certain place. The women were outside by the door, because it was about teaching the priests the law of the household, teaching the heads of the household to enforce the laws of Yah in their household, to cover their families. Now, when you fast forward to the new assemblies being set up, you had people that didn't grow up in that culture, that may have had family members that were of the land or doing things differently. So the order may not have been proper in that house. So when they were setting these assemblies up, and now they're being done in houses and not being done where you have the women are way outside by the door all together with women, you might have people that were together. So there were certain laws being that, okay, you are just finding out about who you are, just finding out about Yahweh's law again. So let me set some things in order. Let the woman remain silent. If she got a question, let her ask her husband, because right now it's back to where things were supposed to be, with the priests being taught how to run their household. So that's what that was in place. It wasn't in place to oppress our women, like the woman don't have nothing spiritual to say, or like the woman was not able to rebuke her man or say, wait a minute, whoa, that's transgression of the law. Mm-hmm. That's not what that was for. That was the main purpose of the woman, to be a helpmeet, to be able to rebuke her husband in respect, not to embarrass her husband and say, hey, whoa, you're the head of the household. Let's go back to Numbers. This correct me if I'm wrong, baby. This doesn't look right. Mm-hmm. That's what that was supposed to be. But now again, fast forward to now, we have people that are being raised outside of the culture of this book, that are just getting in it and picking it up and carrying traditions that they're hearing from people that were taught by Jewish people. Oh, the woman, she just can't say nothing. She just need to be oppressed. Any man that talked to her has authority over her. Where you get this? This is not in this book. And furthermore, when Paul or Saul is setting certain things, he lets you know when this is of me and this is when this is of the law. The things of him, he's a man just like anybody else. He's inspired. It doesn't overrule anything that's in this book. And he didn't overrule anything that was in his book. That's why he made sure he stated things a specific way. All right, did we finish that?
Yes.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 8. So we were supposed to just have a man that was over us to lead us in the way. Now, in understanding, I know this is a point that you brought up a lot, which was a very good point, is just how further and further we got separated from Yahweh in our sin, where he had to jump through all these hoops to deal with us. Well, initially, he could speak directly to us, like with Adam. He would speak directly to Adam, and we would hear the commandment. And for the most part, Adam kept the commandment until he decided to follow after his wife. Well, from that point, now it started getting to a point where you need a shepherd. You need somebody to be in front of you. That way, Yahweh can talk to him like he talked to Moshe, and then Moshe tell y'all stuff. Mm-hmm. And the reason being, and this is why he was so hard on Adam and Moshe, because if Yahweh speak to you directly, it's different if I'd say, Brother Jonathan, let Elder Mikael know to meet me around the back at 1 p.m. It's very important. We need to go ahead and sanctify this area, take care of something. Mm-hmm. Then you go back there and you tell them, hey, Yadon was like, meet him around the back. There's a space, there's a gap in between there. But if Elder Mikael and I talk face to face and we understand what's supposed to be going on, There's a different level of disobedience there. Whereas you may have heard it, you're not sure, you may have misinterpreted, but when it's face to face. So when Yahweh talks to us face to face and we decide we're not going to do what Yahweh has to say, there's a different level of punishment with that. And he had to protect us from ourselves, because if Yahweh came to the children of Yasharal and spoke to us and said these commandments to our face, and then we turn around and do this, there's great judgment going to come our way. So this is why I said, no. Let me talk to Yahshua, the son of Nun. Let me tell him that way he can tarry with y'all. That way, you're still being disobedient to me, but it's not direct disobedience to my face where it has to be dealt with right away. So our sin pushed us further and further and further back, where we had to have a shepherd. And now we're to the point where we begging for a king. Because we just want to be further and further away from Yahweh as possible, and let somebody else stand and be our idol for us. That's the wrong direction. 1 Samuel chapter 8.
And it came to pass, when Shemuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Yasharal. Now the name of his firstborn was Yoel, and the name of his second Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes, and perverted judgment.
All right, so did they do what their father did? No, but their physical father was Shemuel. So just because you are a bloodline family don't mean that you're a spiritual family. And this is why Yahshua said, this is my mother, this is my brother, those that do the will of the Most High. Not just those that walk with me in the word. No, those that do the will of the Most High. Somebody can walk with you while you do these commandments. Somebody can live with you while you do these commandments. That don't mean that they keeping it in their heart. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Then all the elders of Yasharal gathered themselves together and came to Samuel in Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, you are old, and your sons walk not in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations.
Anytime you finish your statement like all the nations, there's a problem. That's an oxymoron. We're not supposed to be like all the nations. We are sanctified. How are we going to be sanctified if we like all the nations? Go ahead.
But the thing displeased Samuel, and they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Mitzrayim, even unto this day wherewith they have forsaken me, and served other gods, so do they also unto you.
So you might have some of the Yasharalai that believe, well, I still believe in Yahweh. I just want a king. I want somebody over me that could rule over us. Well, why they're rejecting Yahweh is because you already have your rule in place. You have the law, statutes, and judgments that determine what you're supposed to do and what you can't do. But what you're really saying is, no, I want somebody to stand over me that can say, nah, that's okay. You can transgress Yahweh's law. He didn't really mean that. That you're not in your land. You ain't got to keep the Shabbat. All that type of stuff. So you can say, well, it was our king. Our king told us that. But at the end of the day, if you have this law and Yahweh is your king, it don't matter what any man says. Whether he's in a higher position than you or a position that you got to condescend to him. It wouldn't matter. So Yahweh already knew what was in the heart of the children of Yasharal. They want to be like the other nations where their king is the one that rules and says you can do this and you cannot do that. 1 second. Go ahead, Elder.
In short, it was like passing the buck.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to be like other nations because they didn't want to take responsibility to follow Yahweh's laws. Because as you said, there's a serious responsibility when you say, I will do this. Especially when you made a covenant through Moshe to Yahweh, that everything you say we shall do. Next thing you know, they do what Yahweh said. Yahweh had to deal with it, harshly. Because out of their own mouths, they made a covenant. Even in Amos chapter 3, Yahweh said, you're the only family that ever known, but I got to do what you was for your iniquity. So they didn't want that responsibility. So that's why you say they're trying to get further and further away from the responsibility of attending to the fall. They want to do it a long stick. You know what I mean? And do their will. They didn't want to do Yahweh's will. This is why we're in trouble right now. This is why we have problems right now. This is why we are fighting to get back to the Most High, because the Most High had threw us in the outfield. You're going to get you behind 10 to 2 now. You know what I mean? So you have to cry to get back to me.
Right.
So, this is a very good point that's being made right now. We pay very special attention to this, because this is why we need to come back to the Father. Because we consistently in trouble, in problems.
Right. Now, looks like a sister wrote a comment saying, "We are Israelites, we are the presence, Suzanne Strong." I thought that was a very good reference to Suzanne in the Apocrypha, where you had a sister that said, "You know what, I'd rather put my life in the hands of the Most High than in the hands of man. I don't need a man to judge and rule over me. Yah gave me law, and that's what I'm going to do. I don't care what you elder judges say, this, that, and another. I already know the law. I'm a daughter of Yehuda. I know righteousness." And Danielle said, "Oh, you used to them daughters of the land. They going to do what they want to do. Not the daughter of Yehuda." Go ahead.
Verse 9. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of king that shall reign over them. And Samuel told all the words of Yahweh unto the people that asked of him a king. And he said, "This will be the manner of king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. And we will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over 50, and will set them to air his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the 10th of your seed and of your vineyards, and give to his officers and to his servants. And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your donkeys, and put them to his work. He will take the 10th of your sheep, and you shall be his servants. And he shall carry out in that day you shall cry out in that day because of your king, which you shall have chosen you. And Yahweh will not hear you in that day."
Now, this is exactly what Yahweh, people will hear what Yahweh has to say and just assume that that's not what's going to happen. That's just a complete blindness. When you feel that no matter what Yah says, he doesn't mean that. He's like the God that's in my head. The God in my head wouldn't do that. And that's a grave, grave error. And we've seen this happen. Just go a few more chapters later, you see this happen where a man got to fight the war of Yasharal and fight the biggest, strongest, most dangerous warrior so his family could be free in their own land.
Good point.
He had to fight for freedom. The man that slays Goliath, his family will be free in Yasharal. How you not free in your own land? Verse 19.
Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, "Nay, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles."
So your king may judge us. Why does he need to judge you? You already have the book of judgment. You already have the law, statutes, and commandments. You already have elders to help make you understand the pertinence of the law. But you want a king that is going to be a man that's going to be flawed, that's going to have some kind of bias in some kind of way. I don't care who you are. You're going to have some kind of bias based on how you were raised, your circumstances, your culture, your bloodline. You're going to be some kind of bias, but this word has absolutely no bias. And that's why it's 2 or more that it takes to judge a matter properly, because you've got to make sure that each individual bias doesn't tip the scale. Finish it up, brother.
And Yahweh said unto Samuel, hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Yasharal, go you every man unto his city.
All right, let's go to Jeremiah chapter 23. Jeremiah chapter 23. So we have this shepherd, this man that's before us, that's placed in front of us. And now we have a king, which is just pushed us further and further away from Yah. And it's just manifestation of us pushing ourselves further away from Yah. Just like Adam did in the garden. As soon as he committed that transgression, when Yahweh showed up, when his voice, his word showed up, he took off. He fled and hid. Why did you run from me? Why did you hide? Well, I heard your voice and I was uncovered in the garden, naked. My sin was right there before you. I was exposed. So I was ashamed and I ran and I hid. So that manifestation is just manifesting to us constantly wanting to put somebody over us. This is the reason why, a main reason why a lot of us flock to these camps and want to be part of these camps so bad. So that we can shy away from saying, well, I need to fully understand all this stuff. And I can just say, well, elder said that we ain't got to do that. We ain't got to do that no more. Well, the teacher said, or some of them, my spiritual father said that this, that, and the other.
What the book said.
What did your book tell you? It should never answer a question, ever start with, well, my elder said. Well, man, what does the book say? What did Moshe say? Well, what did the prophet say? What did Yeshua say? If that ain't the answer to your question, you're with the wrong person. I could give a damn what the elder said or what Yadon said. Who the hell are these people?
Right.
But servants.
That's right.
What did the person that spoke directly to Yah say? That's the only person that's pertaining. Jeremiah chapter 23. And when you have pastors that are not teaching in that manner, they leading people in all these kind of ditches. Because every pastor has got some kind of flaw. Has got some kind of missing piece. And that's by design. Missing something. And even if he's giving you to the best of his ability, he's lacking in something. And if he's not teaching you that, hey, listen, I'm teaching according to what's in this book. But if I'm off with something that's according to this book, then you have the full authority to correct me. And I'm holding you responsible to correct me, because I can't be walking in a wrong matter and leading us into the wrong matter. But if your teachers are not set up this way, or your leader, or your pastor, or your priest, or whatever you want to call him, is not set up in this way, you can't even approach him about something. You got some of these churches, they got bouncers. They got bouncers. You can't even approach them. They like the Secret Service. But get ready to write that $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 tithe check, and see how much. See when you in the back office with him. Jeremiah chapter 23 and verse 1.
Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, says Yahweh.
The lost shepherds. Several meanings. One, we've lost all our shepherds. Two, the shepherds we have are lost. And the shepherds are losing people. Go ahead.
Therefore, thus says Yahweh, Elohim of Yasharal, against the pastors that feed my people. You have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doing, says Yahweh. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries where I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase. And I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, says Yahweh. Behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Yehudah shall be saved, and Yasharal shall dwell safely, and this is the name whereby he shall be called, Yahweh our righteousness.
Now, when has that happened since Jeremiah time, where we dwelt safely in Jerusalem and everything was all good and we didn't have no fear of nobody else? When did that happen? That ain't happened. Go ahead.
Therefore, behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that they shall no more say, Yahweh lives, which brought the children out of Yasharal, out of the land of Mitzrayim.
And when has that happened? Well, we know Yahweh by anything else other than since Egypt. When have we known him anything else since Egypt other than Yahweh, they brought us out the land of Mizraim? That's all we know. We know prophecy. Go ahead.
But Yahweh lives, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Yasharal out of the north country and from all the countries where I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land.
Now, we have been brought back into our land from Jeremiah's time. That has happened. But it's never been that we came out of the north country and from all countries whither we have been scattered. That goes back to Deuteronomy 28, where I will remove you into all the kingdoms of the earth. So this hasn't happened yet. This is what we're waiting on. So all this Palestinian covenant crap and all this stuff, that's BS.
That's right. That's right.
That ain't happened yet.
That ain't the people, Yashua.
And furthermore, they wouldn't be getting skin cancer if that was the case. If you got removed from all the countries that you're at, you don't belong in that region of the land. Go ahead.
Verse 9. My heart within me is broken because of the prophets. All my bones shake. I'm like a drunken man, and like a man whom wine has overcome because of Yahweh and because of the words of his holiness. For the land is full of adulterers, for because of swearing the land mourns. The pleasant places of the wilderness are dried up, and their course is evil, and their force is not right.
Now that's happened. You can look over there and look at the land right now. It's desolate. Go ahead.
For both prophet and priest are profane, yea, in my house have I found their wickedness, says Yahweh. Wherefore their ways shall be unto them as slippery ways in the darkness. They shall be driven on and fall therein. For I will bring evil upon them, even the year of their visitation, says Yahweh. And I have seen folly in the prophets of Samaria. They prophesied in Baal and caused my people Yasharal to error. I have seen also in the prophets of Jerusalem a horrible thing. They commit adultery and walk in lies. They strengthen also the hands of evildoers, that none does return from his wickedness. They are all of them unto me as Sodom, and the inhabitants thereof as Gomorrah.
So what are the inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah?
Evil.
What are they like from this timeline? What are they?
Destroyed.
Exactly. They're not here. What inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah? These people got perished. So this is how he's looking at his prophets and his pastors. You're a people to me that's perished. You are burnt. You're a lake of fire. It's done. You will never exist again. That's how he's looking at the leaders. So if he's looking at the leaders, how is he looking at the people? Because these are leading the people. The people are doing the actions of what the leaders are leading them to do.
The prophets commit adultery and walk in lies.
In his house. Not just, in their house. In his house. They doing this in the temple. Go ahead, Elder.
I believe also that they reference to this, brother, correct me if I'm wrong, brother, but see, they said, I believe in Revelations, but I can't remember exactly what they're going to have a double portion of damnation, that foul filthy cup, because they're supposed to know better. If you study this Torah, you're supposed to try and supposed to be talking to the Most High, hearing His word, to teach, and you're teaching wrong. You know you're teaching wrong too, because it doesn't say what's coming out of your mouth does not say what was written in His word. You really err, and the children that follow you, they got their portion too. I mean, didn't we
stripes and many stripes? Yeah.
When they said that you know better, you get many stripes, but the ones who didn't know, they were stripes, but not like you.
Right.
You understand? They still got to get their portion. You understand? Because they were disobedient.
Right.
But you going to get serious stripes on you because you truly led them astray. You called yourself a pastor or a shepherd, and you was a lie. You was a wolf in sheep's clothing. So I want to make that point out because they're just lying out here when the book says the truth.
Right. Yahweh puts a man in a position where he is leading or tending to a flock. Yahweh puts a man in that position. So once you are put into that position, what's the reason you put in that position? Some people was put in that position to mislead. Because there's angels that are over assemblies that is just to mislead people. And now you have other people that were put in a position to tend to the flock, but you just decided not to do your work because of filthy lucre, because of money, or because of the lust, or because of the women in the congregation, or whatever your ransom for sin is. That's a different story. But you were given that talent and that ability and put in that position to do good. Just like Cain was put in a position to do good. Somebody had to deal with the produce and the greenery. Somebody had to deal with that. But you were supposed to do good with it. You decided to do evil, which is to withhold that portion that belongs to Yah, knowing that you can't make nothing grow. All you can do is water and plant seeds. Yah makes the increase. And you took that increase away from him? That's wickedness. It's the same thing with this word. You can't make somebody grow with this word. But it's your job to deliver it, to water, to plant the seeds. And you decide, nah, I'm going to put it in an area that is not going to grow. Or I'm not going to give the best that I have of this planting and watering to Yah. I'm going to use it so that I can benefit from these people. Many stripes, like what you said.
Verse 15. Therefore, thus says Yahweh of hosts concerning the prophets, behold, I will feed them with wormwood and make them drink the water of gall. For from the prophets of Jerusalem is profaneness gone forth into all the land. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, hearken not unto the words of the prophets that prophesy unto you. They make you vain. They speak a vision of their own heart, and not out of the mouth of Yahweh.
Now, how could that be? If you're a prophet, your job is to speak what you heard in a vision or a dream directly from Yahweh. And you speak that pertaining to, what does that have to do pertaining to the word? But when you have your own vision in your own heart, you decide you want things to be a certain way. The first thing you're supposed to do is, if you feel a certain way, well, does this go against what Yahweh told me? If it goes against what Yahweh told us in this book, then we're supposed to know this is my own vision, my own dream. It's good for a movie, but it's not good to tell the children of Yasharah. Go ahead.
When you read that, you got the second spirit on that. You just talked about, basically, you go back in Jeremiah 14, verse 14, it says right there, then Yahweh said to me, the prophets prophesied lies in my name. I sent them not. Neither have I commanded, neither spake unto them. They prophesied to you a false vision and divination, and a thing of no, and deceit of their heart. So basically, that's another spirit basically saying the same thing.
Right.
They're liars. Yah didn't send them to teach you.
Right.
So if you're not hearing and not reading and not, talking to the Father, praying to the Father, then you're going to believe their lies.
Right.
You're not going to hear the truth.
Right. Perfect example of that is in 1 Kings chapter 13. You have the prophet from Yehuda that comes up, and Yahweh told him specifically, go over there, talk to these people, prophesy against them, tell them these things, but don't come the same way you came in, and don't eat with these people, don't stay with these people. Here comes a false prophet, comes around, oh no, Yahweh told me, you should eat with me, you should hang out, we got the same trade. Now, even if he received that in a vision, it was like, wait a minute. Yahweh told me specifically, don't do this or do this. Why is he going to come around and prophesy through somebody else for me to do the thing that you told me not to do? That's a test. Who are you going to listen to? So the prophets may have been receiving visions from other spirits, telling them certain things. But if you know, wait a minute, the thing that Yahweh put in this book don't change. That law ain't going nowhere. So let me entreat Yahweh again and ask him to say, Yahweh, did you really tell me this? Because you got some explaining to do, because your book says do this. The word that you gave me says do this. Your direct instructions to me was this. But when they not hearing from Yahweh, because they know why they're not hearing, because their deeds are false, they're transgressing, they're doing it in the house of Yahweh, so they know Yahweh is not dealing with them, then they'll grab at any little vision that comes just to avoid looking at the fact that, man, I'm being adulterous. I'm dealing with Baal and dealing with Yah. So first thing that comes around, they grab it. You see Yah still messing with me. And it's in line with what's in my heart, in my own imagination. They already don't want to check themselves.
And brother, verse 16 makes it clear. It says, the prophets that prophesy unto you, they make you vain. Mm-hmm. In making you vain means they made you worthless. You know, you don't have any weight in the sight of Yah. Whereas Yah is saying, who's he going to look to? Those who are poor and contrite in spirit, that are humble before him. So if these prophets are not trying to invoke that out of us as servants, to try to make sure that we're doing what we can to humble ourselves before Y'all, have the contrite spirit to look upon ourselves and our wrongs and clarify. They just say, oh, you get the car and you get the... Yeah. That's not what Yah is looking for. So they've made you vain. Like that's a vain person's right there. So you'll be able to tell the difference between the ones who are trying to do Yah's will and those that, like it says, speaking the imagination of their own heart and making those followers vain.
That's a perfect example of the modern day prophets you see right now. Oh, yeah, you're going to get a good job and you're going to make some good money. And then he looks over there, sees this woman over there look lonely. And you're going to have a husband and he's going to come around and he's going to not do what all these other men done did to you. He's going to be, all these other things, personal prophecies. But when Yah dealt with these prophets in here, he was dealing with the whole nation. Listen, speak unto the children of Yasharah. Let them know this is going to happen to them. But modern day is all vanity. Yep. You're going to get, you're going to be rich. You're going to do well.
Verse 17, they say still unto him that despises me, Yahweh has said, you shall have peace. They say unto everyone that walks after their own imagination of their own heart, no evil shall come upon you.
You ain't got to keep the commandments. You good. Just pay me and you're straight.
For who has stood in the counsel of Yahweh and has perceived and heard his word? Who has marked his word and heard it? Behold, a whirlwind of Yahweh is gone forth in fury, even a grievous whirlwind. It shall fall grievously upon the head of the wicked. The anger of Yahweh shall not return until he have executed, and till he have performed the thoughts of his heart. In the latter days you shall consider it perfectly. I have not sent these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel and had caused my people to hear my words, then they should have turned from their evil way and from the evil of their doings.
But because they're not trying to repent from the wickedness of their own doings, then they're going to produce these vain prophecies so that the people don't feel like Yahweh's not dealing with them. And then the people need to see that Yahweh's not dealing with them because they're witnessing the acts of these prophets. And they're supposed to say, well, man, Yahweh not going to deal with me either. If he's not going to deal with his prophets, if they do it, then he's definitely not going to deal with me.
Verse 23. Am I an Elohim at hand, says Yahweh, and not an Elohim afar off? Can any hide himself in secret places that I shall not see him? Says Yahweh. Do not I fill heaven and earth, says Yahweh? I have heard what the prophets said, that prophesy lies in my name, saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed. How long shall this be in the hearts of the prophets that prophesy lies? Yea, they are prophets of the deceit of their own heart.
I have a dream. I have a dream. Let them dream. Is this dream coming pertaining to what is given to us to do in this book? Or is this of your own imagination? And all these people that have all these dreams and have all these ways, at the end of the day, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess. And these same people with these dreams later come to reality and wake up and say, man, I think I have put my people into a burning house, assimilated my people into a burning house. Yep. It's too late then. Once you start realizing, that's when the bullets start coming. No, you already done your job. Take this brother out. Go ahead.
Verse 26, how long shall this be in the heart of the prophets that prophesy lies? Yea, they are prophets of the deceit of their own heart, which think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams, which they tell every man to his neighbor, as their fathers have forgotten my name for Baal. The prophet that has a dream, let him tell a dream, and he that has my word, let him speak my word faithfully. What is the chaff to the wheat, says Yahweh? Is not my word like as a fire, says Yahweh, and like a hammer that breaks the rock in pieces? Therefore, behold, I am against the prophets, says Yahweh, that steal my words, every one from his neighbor. Behold, I am against the prophets, says Yahweh, that use their tongues and say, he says. Behold, I am against them that prophesy false dreams, says Yahweh, and do tell them and cause my people to err by their lies and by their lightness. Yet I sent them not, nor commanded them. Therefore they shall not profit this people at all, says Yahweh. And when this people, or the prophet, or a priest shall ask you, saying, what is the burden of Yahweh? You shall say unto them, what burden? I will even forsake you, says Yahweh. And as for the prophet, and the priest, and the people that shall say, the burden of Yahweh, I will even punish that man and his house. Thus shall you say every one to his neighbor, and every one to his brother, what has Yahweh answered? And what has Yahweh spoken? And the burden of Yahweh shall you mention no more, for every man's word shall be his burden. For you have perverted the words of the living Elohim, and Yahweh of hosts are Elohim. And shall you say to the prophet, what has Yahweh answered you? And what has Yahweh spoken? But since you say, the burden of Yahweh, therefore thus says Yahweh, because you say this word, the burden of Yahweh, and I have sent unto you, saying, you shall not say the burden of Yahweh. Therefore, behold, even I will utterly forget you, and I will forsake you, and the city that I gave to your fathers, and cast you out of my presence.
So you don't want to hear. You don't want to hear righteousness. You don't want to hear rebuke. It's a burden unto you. So, all right, then you ain't going to hear nothing. You ain't going to have no prophets. You have nobody to talk to you. All you're going to do is have this book. Every man going to have his own burden. He's going to have to read in this book. He's going to have to govern himself.
It's a burden of people to keep the law, the Sabbath, the feast days, the 613 commandments,
Righteousness.
the judgments.
Righteousness is a burden to you.
Right.
So, okay, fine. Then I'll remove you. And I'll remove the person that's going to be the person in your life that's going to be telling you these things. Because that's what Yahweh will do. Okay. That's why you have brothers and sisters and servants and fathers and daughters and mothers and all this stuff. Whoever. The person, there's going to be somebody in your life that's going to say, nah, bro, you need to rebuke. You need this rebuke. You need to repent from this. This is not good. Or you're reading in the book yourself and the book is beating you upside your head, cutting you. Sometimes we left so bloody after reading some of this stuff, man. You be thinking you need a blood transfusion, a spiritual blood transfusion. But at the end of the day, you keep rejecting that, fine, no problem. I ain't got to force. That's why I gave you free will. I gave you free will for a reason. I ain't got to force you. I'm going to remove all those things in your life that was telling you, that was trying to get you to repent. And you be your own burden. Finish that up.
Verse 40. And I will bring an everlasting reproach upon you and a perpetual shame which shall not be forgotten.
All right. Let's go to Matthew chapter 25. And we're just going to read verses 31 through 44.
When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left.
All right. So these sheep are Yasharah and the nations. Sheep on one side, goat on the other side. Where people get this misunderstood is they think that this separation is going to be purely on bloodline. All that's Yasharah bloodline, you good, you sheep, you right here. All you that are of the other nations, you goats, get out of here. No, we know that's not true. So if we know that all of Yasharah ain't going to be gathered as sheep, What makes you think that all Gentiles are going to be gathered as goats? Because there's a different classification going on here. There's a spiritual classification. So when you have this separation, why would Yahweh separate somebody who is his spiritual son, that's keeping the commandments to the best of their ability, from other people that are doing the same thing just because of bloodline? Now, there's still going to be order, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be punishment based on that. Go ahead, Elder.
I just wanted to add something quick in there, bro. You know, if they go to Galatians chapter 3, here's a verse that says, you know, in verse 28, there is neither Jew, Yehuda, nor Greek, Gentile. There is neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female. For you are all one in Christ, Mashiach, Yeshua, Mashiach. He's talking about also in the resurrection.
Right.
Know? Because, you know, they might not share in the same benefit, so to speak, of land that
right.
was promised to the children of Yasharal, but they're still, they were still allowed to be servants in the kingdom. You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about, you know, separating them, they shouldn't make a misjudge. They should not judge it where just the sheep on one side is the ones going to enter into the kingdom, and the ones on the left that goes to the other side, that's the lake of fire. They should not do that, because everybody has a part to play in this. You know, whether you born Yehuda, you know, and became how you say, a working vessel for Yahweh, you know, that worship Yahweh under the Mashiach, or you become a proselyte. You understand? It doesn't matter. Yahweh is trying to make spiritual Israel here also. You know, because nobody knows exactly where they come from, really what line they come from. Yahweh will sort that out in the end. You know, we just got to do the job that He's given us. You know, so we ought to stop trying to judge people on where they should go, or what our imagination of our hearts say, and just follow what Yahweh said. Right.
It ain't going to change. You reap righteousness, you're going to reap a righteous reward. You reap wickedness, you're going to get a wickedness reward. It ain't got nothing to do with your blood, your spirit, your physical bloodline. For it says, flesh and blood will not inherit the kingdom. Period. Go ahead.
Verse 34, then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in.
And to go back to the point you made, Elder, when it's talking about, you know, you are all one in the body, you are all part of the same body, but everybody doesn't get the same benefit. You know, your loins are always covered up. Your head, covered up most of the time. Sometimes it's not. But it's still part of the same body. That face is barely ever covered. But it's still part of the body. It does different things. The feet ain't seeing nothing. The feet walk. It's still part of the same body. The eyes ain't never hearing nothing. But it's still part of the same body. It's not the same order. What if the eye get jealous of the ear? Why I can't hear music like you? All I see is the notes, but you get to hear the music. No, you got different jobs, but guess what? You all alive, part of the body. You could be like the dead man. He ain't hearing or seeing nothing.
But even the deaf can feel the vibrations of the music.
Go ahead, brother.
I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Verse 36, naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Master, when saw we you hungered and fed you, or thirsty and gave you drink? When saw we you a stranger and took you in, or naked and clothed you? Or when saw we you sick, or in prison, and came unto you? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me. Then shall he say unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, you cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungered, and you gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you took me not in, naked and you clothed me not, sick and in prison and you visited me not.
Now, is that necessarily a commandment that you have to do that? I didn't read a commandment that said that you have to do that in Torah. But when you know to do good and you don't do good, that's a sin unto you. You're a holy people. Go ahead.
Then shall they also answer him, saying, Master, when saw we you hungered or athirst or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and did not minister unto you? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you did it not to the one of the least of these, you did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal.
All right. Let's go to Yohanan chapter 21. John chapter 21. So there's going to be that separation. Separation is being done by who did what they were supposed to do. Whether you were the sheep or the shepherd, we're all sheep at the end of the day. And we're all shepherds at the end of the day. The children of Yahshua were chosen for that purpose. But some are, captains of 10, some captains of 100, some captains of 1,000, some 10,000s. We all have a job and we all have a responsibility.
Yohanan, John chapter 21. After these things, Yahshua showed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias, and on this wise showed he himself. There were together Simon, Peter, Kepha, Thomas, called Didymus, and Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, and the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other of his disciples. Simon Peter said unto him, I go a-fishing. They say unto him, We also go with you. They went forth and entered into a ship immediately, and that night they caught nothing. But when the morning was now come, Yahshua stood on the shore, but the disciples knew not that it was Yahshua. Then Yahshua said unto them, Children, have you any meat? They answered him, No. And he said unto them, Cast the net on the right side of the ship, and you shall find. They cast therefore, and now they were not able to draw it for the multitude of fishes.
If I'm outside and I'm talking to somebody, and there's a bunch of us out here, and somebody says, children. I'm going to immediately say, wait a minute, hold on. Let me pay. Who is this guy? I'm going to start thinking, that's not, at least I haven't really seen a lot of situations in here where grown men being called children.
Or Bani.
Go ahead.
Verse 7. Therefore that disciple whom Yahshua loved said unto Kepha, It is the master. Now when Simon Kepha heard that it was the master, he girt his fisherman's coat unto him, for he was naked, and did cast himself into the sea. And the other disciples came into a little ship, for they were not far from the land, but as it were 200 cubits, dragging the net with fishes. As soon then as they were come to the land, they saw a fire of coals there, and fish laid thereon, and bread. Yahshua said unto them, Bring of the fish which you have now caught. Simon Kepha went up and drew the net into land, full of great fishes, 153. And for all there were so many, yet was not the net broken. Yahshua said unto them, Come and dine.
Okay, so come and dine on what?
On their increase, on what they just caught.
Fish. So Yahshua told these people to eat fish.
He already had fish.
He had fish already cooking and bread. And he told them how to catch more fish that they could eat. And he said, Come here and dine. Go ahead.
And none of the disciples does ask him, Who are you? Knowing that it was the master. Yahshua then comes and takes bread and gives them, and the fish likewise.
So Yahshua is feeding them bread and fish. Go ahead.
This is now the 3rd time that Yahshua showed himself to his disciples after that he was risen from the dead. So when they had dined, Yahshua said unto Simon Kepha, Simon, son of Jonas, love you me more than these? He said unto him, Yea, master, you know that I love you. He said unto him, Feed my lambs. He said unto him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, love you me? He said unto him, Yea, master, you know that I love you. He said unto him, Feed my sheep. He said unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, love you me? Kepha was grieved because he had said unto him the third time, Love you me? And he said unto him, Master, you know all things. You know that I love you. Yeshua said unto him, Feed my sheep. Verily, verily, I say unto you, when you were young, you girded yourself and walked where you would. But now when you shall be old, you shall stretch forth your hands, and another shall gird you, and carry you where you would not. Thus spake he, signifying by what death he should glorify Yahweh. And when he had spoken this, he said unto him, Follow me. Then Kepha, turning about, see the disciple who Yeshua loved following, which he also leaned on his breast at supper, and said, Master, which is he that betrays you? Kepha, seeing him, said unto Yeshua, Master, and what shall this man do? Yeshua said unto him, If I will that he tarry till I come, what is it to you? Follow you me. Then went this saying abroad among the brethren, that disciple should not die. Yet Yeshua said not unto him, He shall not die. But if it will that he tarry till I come, what is it to you? This is the disciple which testifies of these things, and wrote these things, and we know that this testimony is true. And there are also many other things which Yeshua did, which if they should be written every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that should be written. Amen.
All right, let's go to the conclusion. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 34. Feed my sheep. This is your job. This is your word. If you only have one fish and one piece of bread, then that's all you can feed. Mm-hmm. You take what you have, you make sure you have something to eat. If this is all that you have, and you share, you feed. So whether you know just a little bit of righteousness in this book, whatever you know at that time, feed people with it. And as you obtain barns that are full of stuff, don't store it away and keep it for yourself. Feed the people that need it. If you love Yahshua.
I just want to say, he was talking, he told his disciples over and so forth, he would sit down and dine. Also, he was trying to say, let's reason together. Mm-hmm. Let's talk.
Break bread.
We break bread. We are talking. We talking spiritual bread and physical bread. You know what I mean? So that's a great understanding. I think that if you sit down and talking with the Messiah, he already cooked some food for you. You sit down and eat. You got your fish coming in. He blessed you. Your net didn't take. Understand? Then you got food waiting for you, hot coals burning on the beach waiting for you. Then you got fish and bread. Now he said, let's sit down and reason together. So he's going to talk spiritual words to them to teach them what they need to do, what to follow. So that's what I glean from that, my brothers. You know what I mean? So praise God. He's showing love to his brethren, children he called, children of Osai, his brethren, by teaching them what Yahweh wanted to do, what their job is.
And what better way to teach than to lead by example? Had food for them, I'm going to feed you. Right. Feed my sheep. And not only going to feed my sheep, I'm going to tell you how to feed yourself. That's right. And how to feed other people. Cast your net over here. Watch. Look what you got. Then come over here and sit down and I'm going to feed you. Spiritually and physically. So he led by example. If you love me, feed my sheep. Right. So he's telling them, do the same thing that I'm doing. Turn around and feed the sheep. Feed the lost sheep. Gather the people together. Y'all come here. Gather them together. So he's leading by example. That was the whole purpose. He came in the flesh so that we could have a fleshly example of what a person that follows the order of the Most High and follows his instructions does. And what is going to be the result of that? You are going to die. People are going to hate you, but you're going to be raised up again. Eternal. Ezekiel chapter 34 for the conclusion.
And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Yasharal, Prophesy and say unto them, Thus says my sovereign Yahweh unto the shepherds, Woe be to the shepherds of Yasharal that do feed themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flocks? You eat the fat, and you clothe you with the wool. You kill them that are fed, but you feed not the flock.
This is the opposite of what Yahshua did. He already had the coals waiting for him, had the food, and taught him how to have more than enough. Because it wasn't just about them being fed. He was feeding the people that needed to feed the flock. Go ahead.
The diseased have you not strengthened, neither have you healed that which was sick, neither have you bound up that which was broken, neither have you brought again that which was driven away, and neither have you sought that which was lost, but with force and with cruelty have you ruled them.
When did we do that, Adonai? When you did it to the least of my brethren, you did it to me.
And they were scattered because there was no shepherd, and they became meat to all the beasts of the field when they were scattered.
And that's what's happening right now. Our people running all over the place, scattered, running to law enforcement for help, getting killed. The beasts of the field. Those people that have no law. Go ahead.
My sheep wandered through all the mountains and upon every high hill. Yea, my flock was scattered upon all the face of the earth, and none did search or seek after them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of Yahweh. As I live, says my sovereign Yahweh, surely because my flock became a prey, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field, because there was no shepherd, neither did my shepherds search for my flock, but the shepherds fed themselves, and fed not my flock.
And that's what you are doing when you spend all this time to study, to get up all this information just so you can be a wise guy. You're not utilizing any of this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to feed the sheep, to tend to the flock. You just keeping yourself out of problems. Go ahead.
Verse 9. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus says my sovereign Yahweh, Behold, I am against the shepherds, and my flock at their hand, and cause them to cease from feeding the flock. Neither shall the shepherds feed themselves any more, for I will deliver my flock from their mouth, that they may not be meat for them.
So, whereas you have this ability to retain this information, to be able to divulge the information in a way that people can understand, but you decide, nah, I just want to work on me and just be all about me, those sheep are still going to get fed. They're going to get fed with your meat. The meat that you feeding yourself, the understanding, the knowledge, the wisdom, the stuff that was supposed to help you help other people, that's going to be taken away from you. And then you'll start seeing the deeds of that individual that is spiritually selfish. All of a sudden they doing things that you like, man, really? You don't believe in the Mashiach no more? Go ahead.
Verse 11. For thus says my sovereign Yahweh, Behold, I, even I, will both search my sheep and seek them out, as a shepherd seeks out his flock. In the day that he is among his sheep that are scattered, so will I seek out my sheep and will deliver them out of all places where they have been scattered in the cloudy and dark day. And I will bring them out from the people and gather them from the countries and will bring them to their own land and will feed them upon the mountains of Yasharal by the rivers and in all the inhabited places of the country.
So Yah is going to seek out his sheep and will deliver them out of all the places where they've been scattered in that cloudy and dark day. He's going to do that. Does that mean he's going to physically come down here and do it himself? He's going to do it through his servants. Do it through his people. Do it from the person that you don't esteem. That happens to be somebody carrying this word. Go ahead.
Verse 14. I will feed them in a good pasture, and upon the high mountains of Yasharal shall their fold be. There shall they lie in a good fold, and in a fat pasture shall they feed upon the mountains of Yasharal. I will feed my flock, and I will cause them to lie down, says my sovereign Yahweh. I will seek that which was lost, and bring again that which was driven away, and will bind up that which was broken, and will strengthen that which was sick. But I will destroy the fat and the strong. I will feed them with judgment. And as for you, O my flock, says my sovereign Yahweh, behold, I will judge between cattle and cattle, between the rams and the he-goats. Seems it a small thing unto you to have eaten up the good pasture, but you must tread down with your feet the residue of your pastures, and to have drunk of the deep waters. but you must foul the residue with your feet. And as for my flock, they eat that which you have trodden with your feet, and they drink that which you have fouled with your feet. Therefore, thus says my sovereign Yahweh unto them, behold, I, even I will judge between the fat cattle and between the lean cattle.
So they eat that which you have trodden with your feet, and they drink that which you have fouled with your feet. So this word that you fouled by the way that you walk, and this spirit that you have fouled with the way that you walk with your feet, is causing them to drink and to eat the foulness of the way that you walk, the way that you carried yourself, the way that you set your example, because you are the shepherd. You're leading them. So if you're leading them into a ditch, they go in the ditch because you're not leading by example. Go ahead.
Verse 21. Because you have thrust with side and with shoulder and pushed all the disease with your horn till you have scattered them abroad, therefore will I save my flock, and they shall no more be a prey, and I will judge between cattle and cattle. And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant Dawid, he shall feed them and shall be their shepherd. And I, Yahweh, will be their Elohim, and my servant Dawid a prince among them. I, Yahweh, have spoken it.
So Dawid's the prince. So who's the king?
Yeah.
Yahshua. Yahshua is the king. Yahweh is Elohim. He's the most high. So David is a prince. He's a king. And then there's king of kings. So there's an order. So this thinking that David is the one that's coming here is going to lead the whole world, that's not what that's about. He's a king, but there's a king of kings. Go ahead.
Verse 24. And I, Yahweh, will be their Elohim, and my servant Dawid a prince among them. I, Yahweh, have spoken it. And I will make with them a covenant of peace, and I will cause the evil beasts to cease out of the land, and they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the woods.
The evil beasts will cease out the land. That don't mean other nations alone. A beast is somebody that has no law. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 26. And I will make them and the places round about my hill a blessing, and I will cause a shower to come down in his season. There shall be showers of blessing. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and the earth shall yield her increase, and they shall be safe in the land. And they shall know that I am Yahweh when I have broken the bands of their yoke, and delivered them out of the hand of those who serve themselves of them. And they shall no more be a prey to the heathen, neither shall the beasts of the land devour them, but they shall dwell safely, and none shall make them afraid. And I will raise up for them a plan of renown, and they shall be no more consumed with hunger in the land, neither bear the shame of the heathen any more. Thus shall they know that I, Yahweh, their Elohim, am with them, and that they, even the house of Yasharal, are my people, says my sovereign Yahweh. And you, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your Elohim, says my sovereign Yahweh.
All right. And you, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your Elohim, says the Adonai Elohim, says Yahweh Elohim. All right. So that's all we're going to do today. We want to keep in mind that yes, we are sheep. We are all sheep. But at the end of the day, we are also shepherds. We have that responsibility to feed the sheep. If you love me, feed the sheep. We follow his example, and that's what he did. He fed the sheep with whatever information that he had. So this is why we study. This is why we govern ourselves. And feeding the sheep isn't always opening your book and reading and teaching somebody. You feeding the sheep by your walk, when you refrain from doing certain things and when you do certain things. You're feeding people. You're teaching people the manner that you're supposed to walk. And all of that is supposed to be geared based upon the Mashiach and this word. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer?
Yeah, brother, I got as we were talking about earlier, between the sheep and the goats. I was just making a point that it has come to mind with people out there in the world, speaking his word, talking about, and I'm just going to use quote unquote old white people and so forth, or Esau, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to end in the lake of fire and so forth like that, Well, I made the point to show with Galatians that we're all basically the same, Gentile and Yehudim, if you worship Yahweh. Yahweh opens the door, as he opened the door for them in the scripture. Okay? Even though they had the order to it, they had to show themselves to Cephas, to let Cephas know that, okay, Yahweh had given them the spirit to teach the word too, but also to the Gentiles. You know? So, I'm not going to go along with, people saying that all Gentiles and so forth, all the Edomites and so forth, they're going to go to lake of fire.
I mean, all white people.
All white people
Right.
going to lake of fire. You understand? So this is why I brought that point up, because Yahweh has on his hand the ones that will follow him. And he also says on his other hand, the people who won't follow him. So even our people, they say, now all Israel is Israel. That's why they say 2/3 of us is going to perish, because we won't follow him.
He said separate cattle and cattle.
That's right.
Right.
Separate. So that's the point I was trying to make. Don't just pick pieces that you want and make a whole new meaning out of it. Go spirit to spirit this book, person by person, so you can understand that Yahweh is talking about the people that want to follow him. That's why he opened the door to the Gentiles, not just to you. I just want to make that point clear. Yahweh has love for the people that obey him and follow him. Now, when he decides, he have mercy on who he want to have mercy, and then he will deal with the ones that he want to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just want to make that point clear.
Well, when you look at that spirit of Esau believed that if I kill off the people that are getting inheritance, the person that's getting inheritance, I would get mine back. So when you have somebody that's using that same spirit and saying, well, I'm just going to kill off all these white people, that's going to make sure I get my inheritance, that's the same spirit as Esau. That ain't going to work. You're just trying to make yourself feel safe, that I ain't got to worry about what I'm doing because all these white people finna die. So that makes me feel comfortable. No, that's not. You should be in the same kind of fear. Same kind of fear that they have. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be judged upon what was your actions pertaining to this book of life. The book of your life and the book of life. How does it match? Or is it transgress each other? That's what you're going to be judged on. But that whole, that white man is Esau. That's some straight 501c3 foolishness. That's straight doctrine. Because these people are not our brothers, bloodline brothers. They're not Shemites.
No.
They don't have our features. They don't have nothing like us. They are a different people. They're different than all the other people in the earth. Why would you say that that's your brother? Doesn't make any sense. Whereas you got people that look just like you, in a part of the land that you used to come from, that are a different bloodline, but are still considered your brothers according to Yahweh. Where he's saying, do not hate the Edomite, he is your brother. Do not hate the Egyptian, you are a stranger in his land. So it don't line up in these scriptures, but if you want to hate white people, don't try to use this book to justify that. And that's taking off the focus of where you're supposed to be focused on your own deeds, your own actions. Like you said, 2/3. Zechariah 13, 2/3. That's a big number of us getting cut off. That's a big number of cattle being separated from cattle.
That's right.
All right, let's go ahead and end it in prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings, and all sisters pray with their heads covered, and we face the east towards Jerusalem.
Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yachak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim of Yasharah, we thank you, Yahweh, once again for bringing us into your seventh day, your day of rest, Yahweh. We thank you for the covering that you've given us throughout the week, despite our deeds. And Yahweh, we ask that you continue in your mercy with us, Yahweh, not only in your covering, but also in our understanding, Yahweh, that you continue opening our understanding, Yahweh, not for vain knowledge's sake, Yahweh, but for our own purpose of our walk, Yahweh, the purpose of leading your people and the purpose of leading our families, Yahweh, so that we can help fulfill those prophecies that you set before us, Yahweh. For we understand that there is a great gathering going on right now as far as you gathering up your people, Yahweh. And we ask that you allow us to participate in that, Yah. We ask that you put our hearts in a place where we can not cause people to eat defiled water and eat defiled bread because of our feet, because we have trodden on it with our actions, Yah. So we ask that you continually chasten us, Yahweh, not in your sordid pleasure, but in your tender love and mercy, Yahweh. We ask that you give us eyes to see and ears to hear, so that when that chastening appears in our lives, Yahweh, that we know how to take change and what to change, Yahweh. And Yahweh, we thank you for all the shepherds you have put before us, Yahweh. We thank you for the remnant that you have provided us to carry that sliver of light all the way down to us, so that we can open our eyes one day and decide to turn towards that light, Yahweh. Yahweh, we ask all these things not only for us, but we pray for all those people across the earth. You're scattered, Yahweh, that also gather to show you the sign of obedience, Yahweh, the sign of love, Yahweh, by doing the things that are pleasing unto you in these commandments, especially in this Shabbat. Yeah, all these things we thank and pray through Yahshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen.